Can you beat Pikmin 4 if both your arms are broken? Wait, what? No. Throwing is the single most important mechanic of the Pikmin games. It's how you divide tasks, fight enemies, and interact with the world. So what would happen if we completely removed it? What parts of the game would stay the same, and more interestingly, what parts would completely change? Now, I'm not only talking about rescuing Olimar being the final boss. No. I'm here to collect every last collectible in the game. This'll take a second. In order to achieve our ultimate goal of all areas 100%, we need to collect 20 onions, 50 castaways, and 413 treasures, totaling a whopping 20 gazillion collectibles across the entire game, all without pressing the A button. Okay, well, we are able to press the A button, but you know what I mean. Welcome to Pikmin 4 Min Throws. Now, before we officially start, let's go over the ground rules of the challenge. Our only restriction is that we cannot throw. But, like, what is a throw? Since there's no in-game tracker, we'll have to define the term ourselves, and I really don't want to make things complicated, so this is a throw. And whether you're throwing Pikmin or an item, they'll all be added to our handy-dandy counter right down there. Oh, but not to worry. Not every item needs to be thrown to be used, and even some that do have throwless ways of using them, like hand-feeding bombs to bulborbs. In addition, we are counting the 2-player mode as throws. I mean, the little brother Mario Galaxy option is literally called the Pebble Pitcher, and last time I read Thesaurus, pitch means throw. So if we can't chuck stuff around, what do we have? Well, there's still plenty of options. We got dismissing, charging, spicy spray, electrocution, a freaking dog. There's no shortage of tools. And with how open Pikmin 4 is as a game, surely we won't run into any problems. Surely. Dude, I'm not even out of the tutorial. You can't be doing this to me. Okay, backing up a second. We begin at Olimar's tutorial, which is thankfully very simple. Round up some Pikmin, get to the Porquillon, and rush it to death. Who needs throwing when I have a dog? From there, literally everyone crashes onto the planet, so we create our character, find Ochi, send him to pull out a plant. Note that this is sending Ochi, we're not throwing him. Unfortunately, that'd be freaking hilarious. And we quickly make our way to the red Pikmin, boot up the onion, grow their numbers, and this treasure is on a ledge. Now, this really shouldn't be an issue. Ochi's rush ability can knock objects off of ledges, something we'll make great use of later, heck, in this very area. But this stupid freaking path creator is acting more like a path hater, acting more like an irritator, because unfortunately, we can't get it later. Alligator. No matter how you hit the ledge, this dumb bell doesn't move, almost like it's specifically designed to only be grabbable via throwing. So in the end, we still can't escape the inevitable grasp of tutorialitis, where every challenge run gains an asterisk. Hey, there's a reason this is min throws, not zero throws. But what makes this so much more frustrating than Pikmin 3's forced throws is that it's right there! I'm not stuck in the tutorial menu until I throw, I only need to get 5 Pikmin on that ledge and it's in! And trust me, I started trying to do some wacky shenanigans to get up there, including piloting the Game Boy like a ship. But since you cannot progress past this point without having all 3 nearby treasures, the path creator is an unfortunate 5 throws to our counter. Trust me, this hurts far more than you'd think. Far more. But don't let this dissuade you, there's still plenty more game left. For example, the Stone of Advancement. For whatever reason, we lack the option to dismiss Pikmin during the tutorial, and this thing is too heavy for Ochi to grab on his own. So how do we get Pikmin on this? Well, jamming into a corner seemed to work. Jamming it to make a corner. If you get Pikmin stuck for long enough, they'll get bored, stop following you, and look for anything else nearby. Which includes the treasure, which is the only time in my life I will ever be happy that this can happen. So after way too long of shoving their faces into the Game Boy, enough Pikmin went idle to successfully start carrying it, allowing us to advance the game to the first major area, the Sun-Speckled Terrace. And from here, yeah, you know how I said Pikmin 4 is an open game? We don't even have winged Pikmin yet. Walking by the iconic Sun-Speckled Terrace bench finally gives us the ability to dismiss. Why? Which is more than enough for us to clear out the first cave, unlock Ice Pikmin, and rescue Russ. Which gives us charging and allows Ochi to become a big boy. He can jump now. From here, while there are specific requirements to progress the game and unlock the remaining areas, the short version is collect a whole lot of nonsense, which is easier done than said. I mean, take a look at our next two areas, the Sun-Speckled Terrace and the Blossoming Arcadia. Of their combined 117 collectibles, we easily amassed 96. Thanks to Ochi's rush ability, ledges are nowhere near as big of an issue as they could have been, and this alone allows us to 100% the Last Frost Cavern, Sightless Passage, and Kingdom of Beasts. Every other cave remaining doesn't even really contain significant roadblocks. Just like the Path Creator, there are plenty of things that are physically incapable of moving off their ledge, whether it's because they're buried or just stubborn. Similarly, we can't grab any treasures dangling from the sky. What are these attached to? Even on the off chance we can reach one of these, there's only two ways to bring them down: throwing and winged Pikmin. Unsurprisingly, the Pikmin type that literally flies will be an invaluable asset to our run, and since they're usually discovered in the third area, we're able to avoid any potential pain points until we have more tools at our disposal. Tools that include the Throwless Lightning Shock to take down aerial enemies, and the extra hand that, yeah, we'll get to. Oh boy, will we get to. But until then, of the 21 objects we have yet to grab, the only one I'm really worried about is this Dandori challenge behind a rock wall. Real quick, I find it simultaneously fascinating and funny that a majority of the things we can't grab yet are specifically designed for yellow Pikmin's increased throw height. Because, like, yeah, that makes sense. Wait, that's probably why these treasures aren't rushable. They're essentially yellow Pikmin tutorials. Dandori challenges and battles are required to 100% an area, but all you actually need to do is rescue their Leafling, which is accomplished by achieving, at minimum, a bronze rank in their cave. This can be done by either using Dingo to skip them or by just doing it yourself. While many challenges feature roadblocks that make it impossible to platinum them Throwless, getting a bronze is never an issue. As such, the only topic worth discussing for any of these caves is reaching them, and for this challenge in particular, it's behind a rock wall, which takes 3 bomb rocks to destroy, something we can't do without throwing. And so, instead of taking the hit right now, let's return once we have more tools at our disposal, because with all this sparkling we've gathered, the Serene Shores is right around the corner. This area is home to a cool 99 things to grab, and after running around above ground, I was able to get 28 of them. From super buffing Ochi to carry the Crimson Banquet, to utilizing Blue's swimming prowess to shred submerged clam clamps, the only thing I wasn't able to snag is the Emperor Whistle buried on this ledge. I mean, you can't see it, but trust me, it's up there. I also find it funny you can potentially soft lock yourself from obtaining the Dapper Rubber Cutie. I think. This elegant fellow is easily obtainable by freezing some water and destroying its Hydro Jelly, but if you instead drain the water, yeah. And while you might be able to make it up here, just don't drain the water. Anyways, enough dawdling, let's get right into the below-grade discotheque, the home to my beloved winged Pikmin. We can obtain them by using the Candy Pot Bud found in sub-level 3, but only if, you know, we could get to it. Normally, you're supposed to throw 10 Pikmin onto a bouncy mushroom, then time the conveyor belt changes to help them reach a box and push it, creating a path to the sub-level's exit. The problem with this arises in step 1. How in the world can we make this gap without throwing, and without winged Pikmin? Well, do I have news for you, because I think I finally cracked the code. Pikmin 4 isn't supposed to be Pikmin 2, it's not even supposed to be 1 or 3. Pikmin 4 is a platformer, and it's the jankiest platformer ever made. Ochi is the god of this game. After all, what is a dog if not a backwards god? Wait. Ochi is the Satan of this game, and I love him. Not only is he a key reason so many collectibles go from being winged Pikmin treasures to right now treasures, but he can get around. His jump height might not be that great, and the game's collision desperately fights you around every corner, but when it comes to traversal, you're not nearly as restricted as you might think. I mean, let's go back to sub-level 2 for a second. On the first glance, our lack of winged Pikmin makes it seem impossible to grab the two treasures on the floor, since one's deep behind a ledge and the other requires us to press this button behind the grate. But screw that, we can jump up the ledge and rush past this gap. They might place grates everywhere to prevent Ochi from wreaking havoc, but you cannot contain the dog. Rush him out a ramp and he goes flying. Boost him with spicy spray and it gets funnier. On one hand, there are plenty of treasures I took one good look at and didn't even bother trying to grab. Once I have winged Pikmin, collecting it would be trivial. But on the other hand, dog. Go! All of this to say, screw doing the puzzle as intended, I'm cheesing it. And with this, we can simply jump onto the wall, around the box, and push it with Ochi, successfully letting us progress through the cave and reach the candy pop bud. And now that we're here, we can finally not get winged Pikmin yet. I lied, we're screwed regardless. In order to actually use this flower to convert Pikmin, you need to throw them in. And that's something we can't do. Thankfully, candy pop buds aren't the only way to gain new types. Outside of finding their onion, most Pikmin can be found just hanging around in caves, which is how we unlocked ice, yellow, blue, and rock Pikmin. And while the winged onion is stuck in the Primordial Thicket, the final area of the game, wild ones can be found in the Giant's Hearth, which we'll be able to get to as soon as we rescue Olimar. Giant's Hearth. Apparently this is pronounced Hearth. English has lied to me once again! Unfortunately, not every type can be found in the wild. Most notably, we can't get purples or whites. These two types are obtained exclusively through their onions and candy pop buds, and since their onions are locked away behind two massive optional side modes and we can't use candy pop buds, then we're probably not going to be getting these guys for this challenge. But hey, as long as nothing requires an excessive amount of either of them, we'll be fine. So now that we're still unable to get winged Pikmin, I continued down the cave to fight Groovy Longlegs, somehow getting it to fall over by using Ochi's Big Chomp, which lets him attack mid-air, and then myself another treasure in Castaway, totaling 10 for the cave. But like, why did I do this right now? If I just came back once I had winged Pikmin, everyone knows how that would have gone. Heck, since the Spheres of Truth and Vitality are still stuck on a string and buried on a ledge, because of course they are, a revisit is still mandatory. So why bother with this right now? Well, let me tell you a little secret. This footage right here is actually my second playthrough of the entire challenge. On my first go around, I did skip this cave. That first go around is also essentially my second playthrough of the entire game. You can tell how old this footage is due to the lack of a loading bar. But due to a combination of new strategies being discovered and some of my recordings getting corrupted, I needed new footage. So if you notice any discrepancies with like Ochi's leaf tail or sparklium values, that's probably why. But as I was grabbing this new Throwless footage, I got kind of curious. I'm not the only one interested in this challenge. Clearly, if you made it this far into the video, you're probably interested as well. Thanks for sticking around. How about subscribing? Anyways, obvious advertisement out of the way. While this video is my own personal journey, Min Throws as a whole has been a collaborative effort. There's so much insane stuff I haven't even begun to touch upon yet, and it never would have been possible without the help of Drought Ender and Obnoxious Void. So huge shoutouts to the both of them. If Drought Ender sounds familiar, he was the one responsible for discovering that absurd tech to get the winged onion in Pikmin 3, and in addition to assisting with this game, he's been a great help in fact-checking some of the more technical parts of my other videos. In Obnoxious Void, well, we'll get to some of the absolute nonsense he's cooked up later. I'll be sure to bring up whenever these two are responsible for discovering anything I show, such as this jump. I only knew this was possible because I learned about it from Drought Ender. So when I returned to the spot on my second playthrough, knowing full well I could just do it later at 0 extra throws, I had my own personal mission. Winged Pikmin are cool and all, but until I finally get my hands on them, how much could I do without them? Enter the Seafloor Resort. With a hanging treasure and a rubber ducky that does not want to leave its ledge, this is also a cave we can't 100% yet, and this rings even truer on sublevel 3. There's a ton of little treasures just lying around everywhere, but the single thing we can't grab yet is the Brush of Foolishness. It's trapped behind these metal grates that can only be lowered if we press this button, and while Ochi can jump around them, the toothbrush doesn't have the same leg privileges. If we want to get this treasure without Winged Pikmin, we need to press the button. First thought, more platforming. The ledge is too high for Ochi to jump up on his own, but what if we use the toothbrush as a platform? Well, much like its name, this was a foolish decision. Carryable objects hate being platforms, and this one's too thin to get a good standing spot. Even when we got a jump off, we couldn't move mid-air, but after constantly rushing into it to change its position, I realized that when Ochi bonks his head, he does a fun little hop backwards. And while this did seem like a more likely direction, it's probably not gonna work. We need to get more creative. There's a bubble spawner right next to where we've been screwing around, and this would be exactly the kind of thing we need if it wasn't too far away. The only other thing we have is a lesser spotted jelly float, but maybe this enemy could help. And that's when I remembered something. Jelly floats have one of the sickest death animations in any game ever. So if you fill one of these things up, you can create an explosion of Pikmin that rains back down onto the stage. And maybe, just maybe, this Pikmin rain can press the button. So after filling it up, I can lure the jelly float by this ledge. From here, running underneath it forces an attack, which not only halts its movement, but causes it to duck down a little. This gives me an opportunity to rush into it with all my blues. And so after a few attempts of making it explode, we got a Pikmin right next to the button, where they can now go and not press it. Gosh darn it. I really wish I could bring this thing closer, but it has a very specific home radius it doesn't like to leave. If it gets too far away, it'll turn around and head back to its spawn point. But when it turns, it still moves forward a little bit. So if I lure it as far over to the ledge as I can, making sure it's heading in a direction that goes towards the button, as it turns around, it touches the platform so hard, it essentially rotates sideways. So if I attack it here, and just like that, we've managed to grab the Brush of Foolishness without throwing or Winged Pikmin, netting us a total of 24 more treasures for our counter. Next up on our list, we have the Sub-Zero Sauna. This cave is where we're supposed to get white Pikmin, but since that just ain't happening, we need a new way to deal with poison. Yeah, everyone saw that one coming. The main issue we face in this cave arises in Sublevel 2. In order to collect the treasures on this floor and progress to the boss, we need to lower the grates, which requires unfreezing the water to press this button. To do that, we need to break all 3 ice cubes around. Problem: one of them's past the grate on a ledge. Now, even if we had Winged Pikmin, this is an issue. Send any non-ice or glow Pikmin to attack a cube, and they will freeze on the spot. And while glow Pikmin would indeed be a viable solution, they're yet another type we can't use. Glows are found in night expeditions, are immune to every hazard, and can turn themselves into a big ball of death that not only stuns and obliterates every enemy in the game, but also lets them gain substantial height throwless, which is clearly the better use. These glow mobs allow us to clear every single night expedition with 0 throws, and would be an invaluable asset to our mission. if the act of spawning glow Pikmin outside of night expeditions didn't require throwing their seeds. As such, we need to get an ice Pikmin up that ledge to progress. So, place your bets. Do we A. spend a throw to break the ice cube? B. Plan out and discover an elaborate outbound technique to reach wherever we desire? Or C. Slam our face against the wall until it works? You better believe Ochi can stay on that ledge. This lets us dismiss the Pikmin and break the ice. So, like I said before, you cannot keep the dog confined. Ochi will breach containment. And then 100% the cave. Who's a good boy? The final cave on our agenda is the Engulfed Castle, and as you might have suspected, this one's a bit of a problem. Due to being submerged in water, we can only take blue Pikmin inside. This is thankfully not much of an issue for most treasures, but this scaly custard hanging off of a web, yeah, this thing's a little worrying. If we can't bring wing Pikmin into this cave, then we're going to have to spend 10 throws to bring the avocado down. So for now, let's put a pin in this and move on to sublevel 5. The most roadblocky roadblock we've encountered yet. Like, holy frick, this is a multi-step pain process. Normally, this is where you discover purple Pikmin, which you use to weigh down a 100-weight paper bag and encounter the Water Wraith, a being who is completely invincible to all forms of damage unless you specifically throw a purple Pikmin at it. Bring its health down to 0, and it once again becomes completely invincible until you throw another one. Only then is it defeated. So the freaking Water Wraith is looking like it's gonna need 2 throws all on its own, which is cool and all, but I'm still stuck on how I'm supposed to get over there in the first place. What's really unfortunate about this obstacle too is that if we can't leave through the cave's normal exit, then we can't reach the upper portion of the above ground. Because of this, while we were able to obtain 15 treasures, this cave prevents us from getting 10 more. Well, let's put another pin in this thing and come back to it later, because honestly, as cool as it is trying to find wingless strategies for things, I think I miss my bees. Thankfully, all that's between us now is the Hero's Hideaway, which holds 95 treasures. And after rummaging the above ground, we can add another 27 smackaroos to our goodie bag. All that remains is the priceless bird on a string and the buddy display on an unrushable ledge. This trend continues into the Doppelganger's Den, which has 2 more treasures hanging from the sky and another button grate system. We can actually rush Ochi into these dust pustules, but as you've seen earlier from me using this exact footage to prove this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And this button, I'm not even gonna bother to try and press that without wing Pikmin. But that's not gonna stop me from grabbing this pocked airhead. Frick, that's not gonna stop me from grabbing this pocked airhead. How the frick do I keep doing this to myself? Whatever the case, we can still reach and beat the boss, adding 14 more treasures to our total. Next up, we have the Frozen Inferno, and this cave's a bit of a doozy. Similar to the Engulfed Castle, we can only bring 1 Pikmin type into this cave. Reds. And that's because this is where we first find fire starters. These flaming pine cones can be used to burn up bundles of straw that block treasures and trails, and while they can be a chore to get down, thankfully, they work throwless. To pick up a fire starter, you have to jump onto an active bonfire with Ochi, which is really difficult if you don't have any slight bumps on the ground. From here, dismissing our picked men will scatter them. If any fall off the bonfire, they can distract Pikmin who are still on it, so be sure to call them away. But if you successfully dismiss a bunch on top of the bonfire, when the fire starter eventually dies, it'll respawn, and any Pikmin you left there will see it, pick it up, and instantly try to pathfind straight to you. It's like you get a constant stream of fire starters for whatever you need. We can use these to clear out the first sublevel, grabbing everything except the puzzle snack on a rope. This one worries me for all the same reasons as the scaly custard, so we're just gonna move on for now. On the bright side, I am really lucky that fire starters work on ice, because the only ice Pikmin you get in this cave are from Candy Pop Buds, and I forgot to buy thermal defense for Ochi. At least I can use them to fight the icy blowhog, and I actually get to use a bomb here by feeding it to the frosty bulborb, clearing sublevel 2 without a hitch. But next is sublevel 3. In sublevel 3, this one's a big uh-oh. Similar to the Sub-Zero sauna, we can't reach the cave exit unless we press a button to lower the grates. But the button is stuck at the bottom of a lake, this frozen feeling caused by the 3 ice cubes on the floor. And one of them is stuck on a ledge. So we gotta find a way to pull a friend up there, and only then will our run start healing. Really? That's the line I'm going with? Does anyone even know what I'm referencing? Wing Pikmin can't help us in this situation for multiple reasons we've gone over. So coming back later barely puts us in the better spot. Breaking this ice cube is looking like it's gonna require a throw. But then I remembered the button in Seafloor Resort. What if there's an enemy who could help us? Well, the only thing we have around is a single dead snowy blowhog. If only we could turn back the clock. Wait a second, all we have around is a single alive snowy blowhog. Blowhogs famously have a pretty funny way of shaking Pikmin off, hurtling them straight forward with a lot of force. So I'm thinking, what if I could get this thing to shake a Pikmin holding a fire starter? Maybe that'll get them up there. Unfortunately, since they're too busy holding a chunk of flame to actually be useful, they do not like getting within shaking range of our harmless little friend. And while I can force it to kick by latching on some Pikmin or generally dealing enough damage, this plan did not seem to be working. And while trying to think of what else I could do, Ochi got frozen, and a Pikmin launched onto the ledge. In my infinite wisdom of not purchasing life-saving upgrades, I got more important uses for those materials. I learned about another way of gaining throwless height. Most of the time Ochi gets hurt, all the Pikmin riding him get launched off. So by either deactivating or not even having his thermal defense upgrade, the snowy blowhog can freeze him. So from here, I grab more fire starters, hold the red Pikmin close, and place Ochi in the face of danger. And it still doesn't work. The Pikmin was not gaining any air. It preferred to clip into the wall instead. And I think the issue lies in the fact that it's holding a fire starter. Fire starter Pikmin don't attack things. They don't interact with things. They can't even ride Ochi. They only follow you, react vaguely to dismissing and charging, and have an insatiable thirst for arson. As such, I've been having to hold them when freezing Ochi, praying that they'll go flying. But since they're not actually riding him, when Ochi flips over, the Pikmin drops back onto the floor. And from here, I had no clue what to do. I went back to the shaking strategy to see if that could actually work, because the blowhog is able to get Pikmin up there. But as I was doing more testing, I got worried. When I finally get the blowhog to shake the fire starter, would that even work? Wouldn't it just cause the Pikmin to drop it on the ground, leaving me in exactly the same spot as before? I didn't truly know what the outcome would be, and while I assumed it wasn't going to work, I needed confirmation. I needed to properly time my charge. Just shake the freaking fire starter! I'm on the ledge? Holy frick, wait, I'm on the ledge! Wait. Wouldn't you believe it? Holy frick, wouldn't you believe it? You can reach Pikmin from up here. And so I grabbed my fire starter, dismissed it, it clips into the wall again and falls to ground level, grab another fire starter, for some reason being able to grab that one until it runs out, go and grab another fire starter, use type swapping to more easily teleport it up the ledge using the random red Pikmin who was also hanging around up here, and successfully burn the plants, melt the ice cube, and complete the cave. Holy frick. This technique to save a throw is especially noteworthy because it relies on an enemy, and strategies that use enemies are easy to overlook because they don't respawn. The single way an enemy can come back to life is if it's in a cave you've 100% completed. Because of this, it's super easy to mindlessly kill the blowhog, realize you can't deal with the obstacle, and leave to keep playing while thinking of a solution. And if I left the cave, I wouldn't be able to turn back the clock, and this obstacle would have officially required a throw. In fact, that's what happened on my first playthrough. I think that footage got corrupted, but here, maybe due to my recent success with the jelly float, Seeing the dead pig gave me an idea. Funny how things work out like that. But now, we can continue down the cave and obtain ourselves a shiny new ice onion. Oh, and if you're wondering how we fight the snowflake Fluttertail, electrocution. The last cave in the area is the Plunder Palace, which has another fairly big roadblock. Okay, I call it big, but it's not interesting like the Frozen Inferno, nor is it hopeless like the Ingolf Castle. We can platform around a large part of the stage to get to some really wacky treasures, but to progress past sub-level 3, we need to defeat this Porquillin. Once again, a pretty standard wing Pikmin clear, but since we get plenty of rocks in this cave and this boss is unable to kill rocks, getting even one up there is enough to seize a victory. So by utilizing the Oching knockback technique established in the last cave, we can puncture the dog to death multiple times until he flips in the direction that actually launches the rock Pikmin up to the boss. From here, it's just a matter of time. No, the real obstacle for beating this cave is in sub-level 4, and it's this rope. That's really it. We need to throw Pikmin up to push it down, which eventually leads to the stage's exit, but no weird shenanigans here. I'm just gonna come back with winged. Unfortunately, since the boss floor is filled with all kinds of goodies, this cave contains 17 things we simply cannot access yet. So in total, we can grab 71 of the region's 95 collectibles throwless and wingless. But that's enough of the fun little bonus challenge. Our flighty lads are finally around the corner. All we have to do to unlock the 5th area is rescue Olimar. So let's go get him. Oh no. This is the vault. The vault for Olimar. The vault specifically designed to protect Olimar. Olimar's vault. That vault. It requires throws. There is no other way to interact with the dials. Charging it, rushing it, biting it, even expending a throw to get a wing Pikmin doesn't accomplish anything. As such, we are forced to input the correct combination one Pikmin at a time, which adds up to an absurd 19 throws, bringing our total all the way up from 5 to 24. And while that sucks, there is a way to lower this number, because the vault doesn't take 19 throws. It's random. The combination to the vault is contained on 3 playing cards across the house. The Courage Emblem, the Wisdom Emblem, and the Power Emblem. Wait, is that a freaking Zelda reference? And while their suits and names remain the same from playthrough to playthrough, the actual number on the cards change. So while my initial run had a 2, 8, and 9, nearly the worst possible outcome, my second go around had a much nicer 2, 4, and 6, which only adds 12 throws to the counter. So what's the lowest it can go? 3, right? For 3 aces? Unfortunately, no. Even though the cards are all different suits, their numbers cannot repeat. This means it takes a minimum of 6 throws to open Olimar's safe, with a code of 1, 2, and 3 in any order. And after running some quick probability math, this also means there's a 1 in 84 chance your minimum throw run is actually minimum throws. Roughly 1.2% of all playthroughs. Absolutely incredible. And since we're saying the day does not generate new numbers, meaning every single attempt requires you play all the way to Hero's Hideaway just to check the cards, which is basically the goal of the any percent speedrun, and these runs take over an hour even with throwing. We spend our 6 throws to open the vault, wink wink nudge nudge, beat Olimar in a battle, bring him back to base and cure him. Hey, I got a life to live, and no amount of gambling will actually change the outcome of this challenge. I've got more important uses for my time, like game development, and 100%ing Baladro. And hey, while the credits might be rolling, our adventure is still far from over. Oh boy, is there still much to do. I'm just excited to finally get my hands on wing Pikmin. So onwards to the Giant's Hearth. The Giant's Hearth is a very Firestarter heavy area, and while we'll be tackling those cans of worms in a bit, they do not matter for our current goal. Because now that we're able to kill arachnoids without needing to clip Pikmin to the sides of a water box or whatever, we can open up the second base, build this ramp, and finally access what we've been waiting for all game. Winged Pikmin. and after leaving and re-entering the ultimate testing range several times to gather a healthy supply of our new buddies, our throwless potential has skyrocketed. Almost every treasure we missed, whether stuck on a ledge or stuck in the web, should now be obtainable. But only if we can answer one major question. What the frick do they do to wing Pikmin? Okay, that's a little rhetorical. Wings' prowess was, of course, a bit excessive in Pikmin 3. Almost every puzzle in the game could be skipped just by charging them, so it makes complete sense why they were toned down. But now, they don't fly up. This can be most obviously seen with the telekinesis detector, a treasure that screams, "Throw winged Pikmin at me!" And if charging this thing isn't going to work, then it's time for this old dog to learn some new tricks. I'm 23. The height winged Pikmin fly at depends almost entirely on the ground below them. So if you want them to go up, you need to make them go up. In here, charging my Pikmin repeatedly at this weird bit of geometry did just the trick. Now that they're on the same level as the Joy-Con, I place myself behind the treasure, call them over, and spam the dismiss button. And while one of them got up there, I still needed 9 more. Dismissing in Pikmin 4 is a little weird because you can't do it wherever you want. There needs to be a Pikmin nearby, which is why you can hear me constantly failing to dismiss here. So on my next attempt, I kept a Pikmin close and ultimately got 6 on the Joy-Con. From there, I dilly-dallied for way too long, got distracted with other potential solutions instead of the thing that was working. Seriously, why did this take me 10 minutes? And got enough winged Pikmin on the controller to collect it. Now, while we did get the treasure and everything, if this is what even a relatively simple obstacle takes, I fear for what basic ledges are going to offer. At the very least, I can rest easy with the fact that winged Pikmin continue to prove themselves as the single strongest combat type in the game. Better than reds, better than rocks, better than purples, and better than ice. And you know what? I'm tired of hearing this rhetoric thrown around constantly. We banned that here. Winged Pikmin are genuinely phenomenal in this game, and I'm tired of people saying they're not. On the combat side of things, they win. They just win. Ice Pikmin can freeze enemies, sure, but frozen bosses take significantly reduced damage. If you want to be efficient, that's the key word here, you can't just send Ice Pikmin at stuff all willy-nilly. Timing them is key. In comparison, winged Pikmin can and will decimate any foe with the press of a single button. Charging them is significantly faster than throwing, works on enemies Ochi's Rush doesn't, and lets you more easily separate attacking for damage with attacking for freeze. Because while starting with the status is often slower, finishing off frozen bosses is the #1 way to get a crap ton of free spicy spray. Secondly, the whole shortcut business. Okay, yeah, winged Pikmin seriously don't take as many shortcuts as they should. 100%. They can fly, yet they're seemingly terrified of doing so. This is especially notable in the below-grade discotheque, seafloor resort, and around the fire pit. All areas where they really should be taking shortcuts. But also, I think moments like this wind up blinding people of all the times they do take unique routes. Because while they lack major ones inside the discotheque, they got a pretty sweet one directly outside for these nuggets. And also, like, look at the cave we're in right now. They can ignore conveyor belts, skip building bridges, absolutely shred the boss, and more. Even in places they're not recommended, they fly up paths, past small ledges, and above danger. They take Ice Pikmin shortcuts without needing to dedicate Ice Pikmin. And sure, the shortcuts they do take aren't as obvious and constant as the ones in Pikmin 3, especially since finding them can be a challenge in the first place, which is kinda dumb. But when these guys actually take a winged Pikmin shortcut, it's bound to be massive. They are the fastest carriers in the game. White Pikmin have nothing on them. What, they actually carry faster? Nuh-uh-uh, spicy spray. Congratulations, you're now taking winged Pikmin shortcuts at white Pikmin speeds. And considering how much spicy spray you'll be getting from Ice Pikmin, there is literally not a faster option. In a less jokey stance, spicy spray in this game sets every Pikmin's carry speed to white Pikmin speeds. including white Pikmin. What this means is that if there's a shortcut available, winged Pikmin are your fastest carriers. And if there's not a shortcut available, any Pikmin's your fastest carrier, as long as you have Spicy Spray. While white Pikmin are supposed to be the fastest type in the game, their speed increase only really matters in the context of small objects, like collecting nuggets or building a bridge. Here, they gain an absurd bonus to movement, but when it comes to collecting anything else, they're usually not worth the type slot. What this all means is that the best carrier for any given situation depends entirely on the situation. So no, winged Pikmin aren't bad. They just require the most knowledge and experimentation to use effectively. And so that's why for the rest of the video, I'll be sure to point out any shortcuts I find along the way. Because I want to make sure you know, these guys rule. They rule for combat, they rule for carrying, and they rule for min throws. So we can collect all 14 things in the ultimate testing range and begin screwing around with fire starters. While we dabble with these things before in the Frozen Inferno, Giant's Hearth is all about starting as many fires as your giant heart desires. Every new bonfire acts as a checkpoint, which both refreshes your current fire starter's timer and becomes a new starting point. Unfortunately, even if we can get on top of them, it's impossible to light a bonfire without throwing. And because of that, well, here's a map of every burnable object in the stage. And here's every burnable object we have to reach. And where is our singular pre-lit bonfire? Oh. These bundles of straw guard shortcuts, bases, treasures, and even a full-on cave. But since each fire starter only lasts 25 seconds, we are limited by how fast we can traverse through the stage. Thankfully, many bundles are close enough for us to just burn outright. That takes a handful of treasures, and by utilizing Spicy Spray, Ochi becomes fast enough to get even further. But it's still not enough to reach a few select locations. But what about the cave? Can we reach Cradle of the Beast in time? Well, after several attempts of running through the stage, just barely. Now that we've gotten open this cave, might as well hop on in and present ourselves with more fire starters behind a paper bag. Oh no. Winged Pikmin did not mesh with scales in Pikmin 3, so these have really got me worried. But before I just give up immediately, I might as well charge them and see if they actually work, and holy frick, they do? Holy frick, they do! But wait, why can't I get them up there anymore? How did those initial 24 make it? What? I needed to do more testing. So I brought in a crap ton of winged Pikmin and kept shoving them against this bag, desperately trying to find out what the frick I just did. And after screwing around for a bit, this happened. Do you see it? That's right. For whatever reason, whenever you dismount Ochi, the winged Pikmin gain slightly more height than normal, which is just enough to pass over the paper bag. This is huge. If winged Pikmin aren't going to gain height themselves, then we can give them it. And this bump, this tiny little boost, is enough to easily get them on top of not just paper bags, but so many obstacles that would otherwise just barely remain out of reach. From here, we can grab the fire starter up a ledge and continue through the cave, where we can see winged Pikmin take a shortcut and have a lot of fun on these random crystals. What are they doing? And ultimately, we come across the King of Meats. This absolute behemoth of a treasure weighs 300, and as such, is the single best example of something we can't get. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even if we had more Flarlicks, we can only have 100 Pikmin on the field at a time. And when combined with Ochi, this puts our carry potential at 200. So without the 10 carry power of a purple Pikmin, we physically can't lift this treasure. And we need, at minimum, 12 purples. As mentioned before, we can't get purples, which is incredibly unfortunate because considering how sub-level 3 is just an Emperor's Bullblacks, we can fully complete the rest of this cave. Just the meat remains. So you know the drill by now, let's put a pin in this and deal with it later. When Ochi swallows a castaway, their beeping gets muffled. Wait, Ochi, get that out of your mouth! The only cavern we have remaining in the area is the Dream Home, which we can access by using the dismounting technique to push down this rope. But this cave, this one's also a big uh-oh. A very big uh-oh. And if you know what this cave is, you probably know why. Remember the vault? Yeah, there's another one. This is Louie's vault, and it contains a treasure. Just like before, wings don't work, Ochi doesn't work, hey, glow mobs don't work. The only way we're able to get inside is by expending throws. And this time, it's going to take 15. The no repeating number rule from Olimar's vault extends to this one, meaning the 3 lowest digits we can get are 4, 5, and 6. At the very least, interestingly enough, the odds of a single vault taking 6 throws is actually the same as both vaults taking 21, so no extra luck is really needed. Holy frick, these vaults really take 21 throws, huh? Nothing else in the cave is an issue, given that this is low-key where you're supposed to discover wing Pikmin. Hear me out. But I'm going to tell you right now that there is nothing else in the game that has any hope of opening this vault. Our best bet is to find a way to clip inside, and then find a way to clip the treasure out. So, unfortunately, we'll have to add another 15 throws to our counter, just to obtain Louie's Jiggle Jiggle. I am never saying that again. But moving on from that massive hit, now that all the caves are out of the way, the only things remaining in the area are above ground. And you know what that means? More fire starters! Reaching the final base doesn't seem required, but these dry plants directly next to it block this climbable wall from being made, which prevents access both up and down it, even by wing Pikmin. Okay, I kind of see the criticism now. As such, bringing a fire starter here is a necessity, and if we decide to run through the crystal gate, the timer just doesn't cut it. But after investigating the map, I realized that's not the only path. There's some grates that block Ochi from passing through. I'm sorry I lied earlier, but we can still place our captain across. Then we just pass the fire starter through, and how do you get stuck on the rod? Then we just pass the fire starter through, walk off this ramp, and we can both open the base and clear the path. This nets us most of the treasures on top of the structure, but unfortunately, this Dandori challenge is inaccessible without Ochi. The way you're supposed to get up here involves burning the path clear, pushing down a ramp, and platforming on up. But not only does a fire starter not last long enough to burn the bundles, but you also can't push the ramp down from below due to invisible walls. Similarly, we still have to deal with the persistence machine, the furthest possible object from our start. It doesn't matter how many sprays you infuse into our dog, we are not making that distance. This means we need to find a way to either make Ochi go faster, get him on top of the fire pit, or extend the life of a fire starter. And that's when I remembered the freaking fiery dweebles who keep stealing my pine cones! These 2 treasures stumped me on my first playthrough, but with hundreds more hours under my belt, holy frick, how much Pikmin have I played? I remember that these guys can extend the timer, and while it can be annoying to provoke them to attack, this Dweevil might be exactly what I'm looking for. Although, since there's 2 things I need the extended timer for, I'll have to be careful about passing the Pikmin through the grate and leaving Ochi with them alone. You know the classic puzzle where you need to get a fox, chicken, and some corn across a river? Yeah, Ochi's the black hole. And while I could use the 2 Dweevils inside the fire pit, there's barely any time remaining to set up the refresh. So, here's the plan. Have Rox passively earn a good helping of Spicy Spray, and position the captain right outside the grate. Meanwhile, Ochi dismisses an army of Reds on the bonfire to create a constant fire starter stream. Move him closer to the bridge, and when a new fire starter is ready, the Pikmin will pick it up and rush towards him. Activate Spicy Spray, and book it straight for the Dweevil. Once we're here, attack it to provoke a flame burst, and make sure it hits the fire starter to refresh the timer. Now hop back on Ochi, make sure no one's around to kill the spider, and make a run to the persistence machine. Do it fast enough, and you can jump up the ledge, grab the fire starter, burn the plants, and collect the treasure. If you're worried about the Dweevil's HP after this point, entering and leaving a cave will fully heal it. Now, the path up the fire pit. While we can extend the fire starter's duration, I forgot to mention there's water in the way. And we're not able to walk across water, so... Wait, yes we can. Repeat the setup, refresh the bonfire timer, and use Ice Pikmin 2. Use Ice Pikmin 2. For Pete's sake, get past the first Weevil, redirect the black hole away from the second most important spider of my life. I miss you. Burn the first set of plants, preemptively freeze the water. Oh, so now you work. And redo the whole setup to get on through, burn the plants, and push the paper bag down. The Dweevil is now free to die. This strategy was really fun to figure out and execute, but I'd be doing a huge disservice if I didn't talk about how Drought Ender overcame these same obstacles. Because while I figured out how to extend the life of a fire starter, he figured out the other two. When you have a climbable wall built, Ochi can't climb it. Shocking, I know. But if you place the captain on the wall and rush Ochi at them, instead of bumping his head, he'll just, like, do that. If you smash his collision to the captain, the game tries pushing them both away. But since the captain is attached to the wall, only Ochi is affected. Because of this, if you place the captain in the correct enough spot and then rush Ochi at the right angle, he can get on top of the fire pit and jump to the castaway. Which is wild. So if that's how Ender got up there, what was his solution to the persistence machine? Well, persistence. Infinite persistence. Infinite rush. When you unlock every possible upgrade for Ochi, which you can only do after rescuing every castaway, he unlocks the ability to rush, but forever. And even though they aren't latched onto his back, Firestarter Pikmin can keep up with Ochi pretty well when he's doing this. This is definitely a later solution to this problem, but I think it's very fun. All that's left in the Giant's Hearth is the various miscellaneous nonsense we have yet to grab. Oh hey look, another shortcut! And the rock onion stuck behind a rock wall. Frick. Yeah, we'll be putting a pin in this one, coming back to it later, because otherwise, we have completed almost everything in the Giant's Hearth. And now that we have Wing Pikmin, let's run back to the previous areas and gather up whatever we missed. I assume it should all be fairly trivial, right? Well, first we're gonna need to learn more about Wing Pikmin. Even with the dismounting technique, this floor lick is too high to reach, so after bashing my head into a wall for a bit, figuratively and literally, I turned my sights to this nearby cliffside. It gives us a great sight line and altitude for our target, albeit still too far away for charging or dismissing to be useful. Which is a shame since calling the wings down there causes them to rise to my height before heading over. But after enough trial and error and accidentally falling off the platform, I kept the momentum up by spamming charge. And it worked! While it doesn't give wings height on its own, charging is a great tool for preserving height. This is probably the exact technique that would have simplified grabbing that Joy-Con from earlier, but this floor lick isn't the only thing I struggled with. Inside the industrial maze is this castaway on a floating platform, but it's both too high for the dismount technique and too far for the charge technique. So how do I get my wings up there? Well, by spamming random buttons on my controller for long enough, they successfully picked it up. I had no clue why this worked at the time, but on my second playthrough, well, I was gonna check if the charge technique did in fact work on the Joy-Con, but after dismissing them... So, yeah. Welcome to the 3 essential techniques for throwless Wing Pikmin. Remember to slam that like button and let's get into it. Technique 1, dismounting Ochi. This gives your Wing Pikmin slightly more height, which is enough to grab far more things than you expect. Technique 2, charging prevents falling. You can help preserve height across space by running forward while spamming the charge button, while also utilizing the nearby terrain to keep gaining altitude. Technique 3, dismissing. Dismissing just works. Our Wing Pikmin are just like much more likely to interact with the things above them. By utilizing a combination of these 3 techniques, even if I didn't realize the third one existed, don't worry buddy, take your time. We can finish up every remaining throwless object in the first 4 areas. Treasures on webs, behind pullable paths, on webs, buried on a ledge, and attached to a web are all now obtainable. And along the way, I got to watch Wing Pikmin take shortcuts in areas you don't even get them for. You have to go really out of your way to even see half of these, and although they're honestly worthless since these are shortcuts you have to backtrack to use, it makes me happy that these are here. But how'd the cleanup go? In the Sun Speckled Terrace, we were able to grab 35 of 45 treasures, but with 3 above ground and 7 in caves, we were able to bring this up to 100%. Let's freaking go! The Blossoming Arcadia, we had 63 of 72, but Winged Pikmin let us bring this up to 71. The only thing we have remaining is that Dandori challenge behind a rock wall. And lastly, the Serene Shores, we had 84 of 99 collectibles, but Winged Pikmin only let us bring this up to 89 of 99. There wasn't really a lot of them to do. Everything we have remaining is stuck behind the Engulfed Castle. But you know what? There's not a whole lot else we're going to be getting anyways, so I think it's finally time we take a look at this cave a little deeper. To recap, the Water Wraith is invincible to all forms of damage unless we use a throw. And since it has 2 health wheels, we need to throw 2 times. So unless we can find another viable option, this floor is looking at a minimum of 2 throws to complete. Scratch that, 3 throws, because this plan still needs a purple Pikmin. But the most pressing obstacle on this sublevel isn't the flowers, nor is it the boss, it's the bag in between. We need 100 weight to flatten this thing, and at minimum, that's asking for 20 throws. 10 to grow 10 purples, and 10 to flatten the bag. And thanks to the Pikmin restrictions and the complete absence of, like, anything in the surrounding area, the only tools we can use are the items in our bag. And while many of these need to be thrown to be used, well, 1 throw is certainly less than 20. In knowing the different strategies I've used across this run, which item do you think can help us here? The answer? Ice Blast. As we've gone over, Stunning Ochi flings off any Pikmin who's latched onto his back, so if we disable Ochi's freeze immunity in the pause menu, a much appreciated feature, there's nothing stopping us from making our pup susceptible to being frozen by our own hands. And if we can freeze Ochi wherever, well, Joe Ender found out we can also catapult ourselves off of our own bomb, freeze mid-air, and launch all 100 Pikmin onto the bag, at the cost of only a single throw. Actually insane. This allows us to beat the Water Wraith and escape the Engulfed Castle in only 4 throws, granting us access to every treasure in the upper portion of the Serene Shores. And as I sit here, watching my Winged Pikmin take a genuinely great shortcut, smile resting on my face, I start to worry. Because there's still one treasure I forgot. The Scaly Custard hanging on a string. 10 more throws remain. I wish I could just take wings in, but because the entrance is covered in water... Wait a second. This entrance isn't covered in water. Oh. Oh, frick. The Engulfed Castle is one of a handful of caves that has a unique exit, but in turn, this creates a second entrance into the cave. And taking this entrance puts the whole cave in reverse? On every sublevel you start at its exit, and the hole to progress appears where you used to start. Not only that, but these holes go in the wrong direction. Sublevel 5 leads to 4, 4 to 3, and 1 has the exit. It's really surreal, but I kinda love this. Really adds to the supernatural element of the caves. And, best of all, this allows us to take Winged Pikmin into the Engulfed Castle and weigh down that avocado. Man, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Oh yeah, you better believe this works in the Frozen Inferno. Nothing else in the Hero's Hideaway is a struggle either. All the problems we ran into before are easily solved with the addition of Winged Pikmin. And so, with our cleanup phase complete, we have officially 100%ed 3 areas, and are only missing a castaway, an onion, and a treasure in the others. Pikmin 4 is looking oh so close to completion, but there's still one location we have yet to enter, the Primordial Thicket. And considering how this area is specifically designed for Winged Pikmin, there shouldn't be any complications of note. Oh, who am I kidding? You know how this goes by now. But for the most part, yeah, this area is pretty simple and clean. Tall enemies, mud to freeze, poison everywhere for the dog. The thicket doesn't have a ton going on. The two caves we have available, the Mud Pit and Subterranean Swarm, have nothing of note outside of many winged Pikmin shortcuts. Most treasures and enemies around are similarly unremarkable. Winged Pikmin clear the stage, and I'm so proud of them. But while we've already grabbed 49 of the objects around, not everything is coming up peachy. Most notably, the winged freaking onion. Oh, come on, I really want that. I need to push this box down in order to reach it, but it's protected by some poison geysers, and unfortunately, the intended strategy of throwing white Pikmin up the ledge isn't going to work. Not just because we can't throw, but also because we don't have white Pikmin. If I want to push the box down, I need a type that's both immune to poison and has an ability that can gain height. But like, what else is immune to poison? Wait, what if... No, those things take throws to spawn. I can't even spawn them above ground. Wait, yes I can. Wait, no, what? Wait a freaking... Hold on! Glow Pikmin were useful. Holy frick, Glow Pikmin were useful! I'm so happy. And now that we have an easy to access infinite supply of our favorite type, there's not a whole lot remaining in the PT. And by rescuing Nell from Louie, we've unlocked the game's final cave, the Cavern for a King. A 20-floor gauntlet that's home to half of the area's collectibles, the final boss, and Louie. And the only other thing we have left to do in the area is the mammoth snoot whacker in the room. Remember the Doomsday apparatus? It's back! In gold form! This is the golden vaulting table, and I see this thing in my nightmares. The only way we can lift this 1,000 weight treasure is by using 100 purple Pikmin. I think you see the issue. And assuming we can get Ochi to assist in lifting this thing, an assumption I am very confident about, we are still looking at 89 throws to carry this treasure in, all to grow purples. So, is there a way we can avoid this? Is there a way we can avoid throwing nearly a century's worth of Pikmin into candy pop buds? Well, yes, there is. I mentioned before the only other way to get purples is by unlocking their onion. Something you get after beating the final level of the Trial of the Sage Leaf, a mode that only unlocks after you beat Olimar's Shipwreck Tale. So, this begs the question, which takes fewer throws? Growing 89 purples, or completing every side mode? If you thought this video needed an excuse to be longer, well, here you go! Olimar's Shipwreck Tale is a Pikmin 1-esque escapade, where Olimar has 15 days to collect the 30 parts required to fix his ship and attempt to leave the planet. And I checked, we do in fact have to collect all 30 parts. Skipping to the end early will not unlock the Sage Leaf trials, and so, for the time being, we have no winged Pikmin. We're running it old school with this setup. We start off yet again at the Sunspeckled Terrace at square one. No charging, no dog, just dismissing. But at the end of every day, we unlock abilities depending on how many ship parts we have. So while we start as slow as a purple Pikmin stuck in mud, we can grab the whimsical radar to unlock charging, use charging to fight more enemies and grab more parts, and we keep this up until we eventually snowball directly into moss. Now, with a dog at our side, we rampage through the stages and ultimately full clear the Serene Shores. Like, genuinely, this region was very nice to us. There's not a single thing we couldn't tackle with moss. Except for this Florlick on the web. Thank Ochi we don't actually need that. Moss starts out pretty stacked on abilities, so she can deal flying enemies, arachnoids, bosses, the whole shebang. And while we lack the Scorch Guard to resist fire, we can still pick up fire starters since Pikmin automatically drop from Moss when she starts to burn. So overall, this adventure went really smoothly, but to unlock the final area and beat the tail, we need every available part. And this leaves us with 4 of note. The Omega Stabilizer, Nova Blaster, an Ionium Jet, and a Repair Type Bolt. The Omega Stabilizer is behind a rock wall. Cool. The Ionium Jet is stuck on an unrushable ledge. Cool. The repair type bolt is buried on a ledge. Cool. And the Nova Blaster is trapped on a Arachnode web on the planter we can't reach unless we pull down this pullable path. Cool. Right off the bat, these are going to take 34 throws to grab. So let us add these to the counter and get on cooking. And by us, I mean Drought Ender. You figure out some pretty funny stuff for some of these. First off, the repair type bolt. This thing will take at most 1 throw, since if we can unbury it, we can rush it off the ledge. But how do we get a Pikmin up there to dig it out? Why hello there, Mama Sheargrub! You know where this is going. While trying to rush Moss at the right angle to launch Pikmin up the ledge, Drought Ender had the Mama Sheargrub shake Pikmin up instead. But when I tried to replicate this, I did it a little differently. When Moss is attacked by the Sheargrub on the ground, she flattens. So if we want the Pikmin to be properly flung off, she has to be airborne when attacked. So by ramming her head into this wall right as the Sheargrub approaches, we can launch everyone off and get just Olimar up the ledge? Seriously? This is cool and all, but this is not what I wanted. I still need to get Pikmin up there. Why hello there, Blues! Oh, okay, sure. What? If a Pikmin falls out of bounds while above ground, they'll respawn on top of your squad from high up. And I guess at some point while getting Olimar up here, a handful of Blues manage to clip into the wall, respawning in my squad. Whatever the case, that's a throw save. Next up, the Ionium Jet. Remember what we did in the Engulf Castle? Well, it works here too. Grab the conveniently placed Ice Blast nearby, and we can bring this part's 10 throws down to only 1. A pretty simple solution, even if it still requires a throw. Now, the Nova Blaster. Since this part clocks in at 20 throws, shaving this number down is a top priority. Thankfully, this pullable path isn't the only route to the part. There's also a rope we can push down to grant Olimar easy access up, but unfortunately, reaching it is tricky. It's even too high for yellows. So how can we get 5 Pikmin up there to push this down? Ender solution? Lineup Trumpet. This tool is unlocked in the base game by collecting every single music-themed treasure, so for some reason this is effectively a post-game ability. But in this side mode, Olimar gets it after collecting 4 parts. So we can throw 5 Pikmin up this wall, and use the trumpet to guide them all the way to the rope. From here we climb up, the Arachnode to death, and collect the Nova Blaster in only 5 throws. But that still kinda hurts. There's gotta be some way to skip throwing Pikmin up there altogether, right? Well, enter Obnoxious Void. We'll get to some of the more significant contributions later, but for now, well, they play with Pebble Pitcher constantly enabled. And what's funny about Pebble Pitcher is that it kind of works wherever you need it to. Collecting objects gives you items, and once you get your hands on the bomb, we can use the survey drone to move our camera over to the Arachnode and orbital strike it, killing it in what I'd call a single throw. I have arachnophobic friends who'd probably love this. If we come back the next day, the Nova Blaster will be put in a spot that lets it rush it off that ledge. Now, I love the strategy a lot, but to prove that this is also possible without Pebble Pitcher, Void then used a watery blowhog corpse to get Moss onto the lower ledge and ice blasted Pikmin up to the rope. A really cool second strategy. That still leaves us at 1 throw. But after seeing this, I had my own ideas of what to do on this ledge. That dirt mound is very tantalizing. Is this how worms feel? The issue is, I don't know about you, but slowly pushing the dead body of a pig into a corner was not something that seemed very entertaining to me. I'm much more of a speed kind of guy. And speed is exactly how I plan to get up there. Not everything requires an in-depth technical explanation on how it works. Sometimes, it's as simple as fast thing plus ramp equals Wii. Although I will say we cannot jump up from the mound alone. It kept kicking Moss off the ledge, so this extra rush is indeed necessary. Probably. The only part we have remaining is the Omega Stabilizer, which is stuck behind a rock wall. Our arch enemy. If we can get to the part, there's plenty of room for the Pikmin to carry it home, so we don't actually need to destroy the wall. We only need to get to the other side of it. But how? Well, Thanks to Obnoxious Void, there's a way. And it's by using the exact same thing I did to get up that ledge. That's right, spicy spray. Berries. Spicy berries, it's the same thing, trust me. These berries are small, transportable, and stick around till the end of the day. And since they're so nice and simple, we can use these as mini platforms. Sometimes. For some reason, it seems that not every berry can actually act as a platform, so it's important to jump on them beforehand to make sure this one is actually one you can stand on. Rotation might also matter here, but once we find a working berry, we can keep spinning it towards the wall, put it in the right spot, and use it to jump over the terrain, netting the final part in 0 throws. This unlocks the hero's hideaway, and I'm pleased to say that we encounter 0 major roadblocks here. So after eviscerating the ever-living frick out of Man Legs, we can officially complete Olimar's Shipwreck tale in only 1 throw. Which so far is looking like it beats out Candy Pop Buds. But we're not done yet. The last thing between us and our perps are 10 stories of Dandori. Let's do this! The Trial of the Sage Leaf is a sequence of 10 mission mode-esque stages, where you're given a task, a set number of Pikmin, and a time limit. Beat the stage fast enough and you're able to progress into the game. Take too long and while you are able to keep playing, you won't be able to continue until you successfully complete the challenge. Okay, who touched my presentation? So, example. Story 1 Bulblaxes gives us Red and Ice Pikmin and tasks us with defeating every Bulbor base enemy in the floor. Pretty simple, I even got a platinum. But Story 2, Snow Problem, proves why this could be a disastrous place for us, because even when we think we're finally done with them, fire starters always come back. We need to collect 45 materials to reach a Sage Leafling, but since many are locked behind bundles of straw, we need to get burning. And while distance isn't an issue, we can't get on the bonfire. There's no good vantage point. But after remembering the atrocities I did to Moss, if I can't get Ochi up there, can I still burn him? So I turned off his flame immunity and kept on jumping until he eventually lit on fire. And after doing this enough times, I got Ochi to begin panicking right as the Reds were mid-jump trying to grab onto him, launching them onto the bonfire. This lets us pick up the starter and clear out the second story throwless. Next up, we have Story 3, Dig Deep, which is all about digging. And unfortunately, that includes buried treasures on ledges. Thankfully, this small bump right here is enough of a height boost to get Ochi up there, so crisis averted. From here, Story 4, Dandori Seas gives us Winged Pikmin. Nice. Story 5, The White Key, also gives us Winged Pikmin. And with that, we have officially unlocked Whites, who are unfortunately not going to be useful to us whatsoever. The key we're looking for is all the way at the end. Also, because I said I would point these out, yes, both of these challenges have huge Winged Pikmin shortcuts in multiple places. I mean, they're challenges specifically designed for Winged Pikmin to be useful, so, go wild. Next up, we have Story 6, Gimmick Gambit, and, well, the name says it all. Gimmicks are the death of challenge runs. To beat the stage, we need to reach the Sage Leaf, and doing so requires solving a multitude of random puzzles, many of which require throws. Pushing a rope, pulling a web, and riding some conveyors all open paths that lead to the Sage Leaf, totaling 11 throws. This ain't gonna cut it, because while the objective says we need to knock the walls down, we only need to get onto that platform. By making this jump onto the bouncy mushroom, we have a great vantage point directly to the Sage Leaf, and by standing on this corner, we can build up an Ochi rush. Angle it right, and we can launch ourselves. Frick. There's an invisible wall in the way to prevent this exact technique from working, but you know what? If we can't go through the wall, we can still go above it, beating the stage in record time. Literally, this trick is used by speedruns, but discovered by Drought Ender for min throws. This is information that makes me deeply happy. Now onwards to Story 7, One Fell Jump. This one's funny. Very funny. Die! Story 8, Crowded Kitchen, and Story 9, Turf Turmoil were 2 more easy peasies. While we can't use the provided candy pot buds, the naturally given squad is more than enough to collect all the treasures and beat all the bosses without breaking a sweat. Which means all we have left is the final challenge. The last thing standing between us and as many throatless purples as our heart desires. Story 10, the Purple Key. In this one is one of the biggest uh-ohs yet. To beat this mission, we need to guide the purple onion back to base while avoiding an active water wraith threat. Don't worry, we don't need to kill it. We just need to find a way to crush these paper bags. You know, without winged Pikmin. We can ignore the first bag since it only serves as a shortcut. But the second bag is the literal last obstacle in our path. We need to get 100 weight worth of Pikmin on this to beat the stage. But quite unfortunately, we don't even have 100 weight worth of Pikmin in the stage. Our 35 ice and 3 purples only add up to a measly 65. So if we want to bridge the gap, we need to spend 4 throws to get more purples, which brings our weight up to 101. And you know, this is all assuming we can even get them on the bag in the first place. I mean, there is this nearby Arctic cannon larva, but rather surprisingly, its snowballs are worthless to us. And if we can't get our Pikmin up there, the throws this challenge requires goes up from 4 to 17. So how in the world do we get Pikmin on the bag? Well, thanks to Drought Ender's hard work, the answer is Swallow. Unlocked by speaking with Olimar after maxing out Ochi's carry potential, Swallow lets Ochi put whatever he wants in his mouth. This is genuinely one of the best abilities in the game. So, if we have Ochi swallow the onion near the paper bag, he'll try to walk through it like the genius he is. But if we spit this thing out at just the right angle, we can clip on top of it. Now, call the Pikmin to hop on for a ride, and while it's incredibly finicky, it's possible to start a rush up here. And if we position it just right, we can bonk backwards, land on top of the paper bag, dismiss our squad, and collect the onion. You know, if I actually did that when I finally got the trick. Great going, me. Real nice work in the footage there. Yeah, I don't blame him too much. Collecting the onion wouldn't have even done anything because I was in overtime. So if we want to officially unlock Purple Pikmin, we have to do it within the initial time limit. This means we have to reach the end of the stage, set up the trick, and collect the onion all in 5 minutes. Well, I didn't make Pandora database for nothing. It's time to finally listen to the Sage Leaf and get efficient. Here's the route. Start plucking the ice Pikmin, then have Ochi ram the onion off the ledge, break half the wall, and start attacking the jelly float. From here, keep alternating between manually attacking the jelly float, finish breaking the wall, and using Go Here with the captain to grab every Pikmin in the lower area before heading through the tunnel. Now, use the 4 throws to convert some of the jelly float Pikmin into purples, and get Ochi on the onion ASAP. The sooner it's on its way, the more time you have for the trick. Now, there's a bit of luck for this next part, mainly with the water wraith's potential for defeating the dwarf bullbears and general I will kill you attitude. But unless the water wraith really hates the pup, Ochi is capable of killing the dwarf bullbears and continuing his path without needing to be controlled. So while he's making his way through, use the captain to grab and pluck the remaining Pikmin nearby and rush ahead to the larva pit. You can only lose a single ice Pikmin, so be sure to use your punches to protect everyone so they can shut down this obstacle death-free. Once you're at the crossroads after the blowhogs, I prefer to take the right path, as purples pull pots pretty fast, and we can use ice Pikmin to freeze a startle spore so we don't need to bother killing it. Now, distract and defeat the Arctic cannon larva so it doesn't send Ochi back down the hallway, and we are successfully in a position to set up the trick. Executing this route can be very complicated, and even small mistakes will require a reset. Sometimes the speeds will be different depending on water wraith positioning, dwarf bullbear survival, and the general annoyance of the bullboard larva. But once we're at the end, time after time after time of failures, eventually, I got this. This was a platinum. I got a platinum medal on this stage. Holy frick. But not only that, we just completed Olimar's Shipwreck Tale in 1 throw, the Trial of the Sage Leaf in 4 throws, and in total, unlocked the Purple Onion in only 5 throws. And I don't know about you, but that seems less than 89. So with fewer throws than it takes to open Olimar's vault, we can grow our purple's numbers and grab the King of Meats and Golden Vaulting Table, placing our completion just a bit closer. All that remains now is a Castaway in Blossoming Arcadia, an Onion in Giant's Hearth, and the final cave of the game, Cavern for a King. 20 floors of enemies and bosses. Thankfully, it's not that terrible. As I've said before, winged Pikmin are combat gods, especially when combine them with ice Pikmin. Both of these types are also required for the cave, thanks to pullable paths and holes in hydro jellies, but floor after floor, boss after boss, not a ton was able to stand up to our defense. This cave is looking like a cinch. Well, frick. Sublevel 16 presents us not just 1, but 2 water raids. And if there's anything we know about this guy, it's that this floor now requires throws. Specifically, 4 throws, or 2 per raid. There's no getting around the fact you have to kill both of them either, since the connection detector only drops from the second one we destroy. But like, how did that one saying go again? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Too bad that doesn't work, these birds are immune to stones. Wait, if you have these guys chase you around and put yourself in the prime spot, you can stun both wraiths with 1 purple. Follow this up with a well-angled Ochi Rush, and both of the rollers can be destroyed using only 1 throw. Great job, now do it again. This is a lot harder than it looks. Timing and aiming these throws are more particular than you'd think. If a purple latches onto a water wraith, that's a reset. You have to make sure it doesn't hit anything so it can thud the ground. From there, take too long to kill either wraith and they'll get mad and become invincible again. That's a reset. But once you're in the proper spot, thankfully, we have ice Pikmin at our disposal. It's hard to split your army evenly across both wraiths, but by freezing one while demolishing the other, it buys us enough time to defeat them both. So in total, sublevel 16 adds only 2 throws, which kinda sucks. Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Soon enough, we reach the game's final floor, and with it, the final boss, the Ancient Sirehound. This 5-phase gauntlet of a fight follows the same principle for each health wheel. Dodge its attacks until the tail is vulnerable, charge your winged Pikmin to make the dog fall over and crush Louie, then swarm its belly to deal damage. Rinse and repeat and repeat and repeat. Through the ice phase, the electric phase, the fire phase, and finally, the gloom phase. Idiot, you thought flying was gonna stop the winged Pikmin? Well, how do you like them apples? How do you like them apple? Oh. Wait, no. Wait, flying is stopping the winged Pikmin. This dog is fighting fire with fire, but against bees. Wait, Ochi, go! And with that, we have 100% the Cavern for a King, and in turn, the Primordial Thicket in only 2 throws. I guess it's technically 7 throws, but it's 2. We are now 99% done with the game. And while I desperately don't want to bring our throw total any higher, it's time to finally talk about the remaining pain points in the room. So who wants to discuss rock walls? I think they're called reinforced walls, but screw that, I'm calling them rock walls. There are only 2 of these in the entire game, and of course both of them are a problem. Not the entire game, in the story game. There are only 2 of these in the base game, and of course both of them are a major problem for us. Destroying these is going to take 3 throws a pop. So let's add those to the counter and see if we can bring that down. Now, funnily enough, each wall poses an opposite problem. In the Arcadia, there's a path leading from the Dandori challenge that's meant to prevent Pikmin from getting stuck, and I'm sure it's more than enough space to free the Leafling as well. But thanks to the wall, we can't get in there. On the flip side, the Hearth has plenty of methods to sneak into the ash pit, but since the intended exit is a geyser, we can't carry the onion out. So how do we deal with these walls? The first idea is to find a throwless way of detonating bomb rocks. But despite sounding simple, there's actually not a lot of ways to do that. Like, the only thing we could use are enemies. They don't work. Unless they just go and eat the bomb, being attacked forces you to put it away, even by fire or explosions. The only creature that had any other interaction were these frickers. The swooping snitch bugs. They dart down, snatch your bombs, and throw them back at you. Which is exactly what we're looking for. But even though they appear in the Blossoming Arcadia, they're too far away to be useful. All we have are some Snagrets for the Castaway and a couple of Grub Dogs for the Onion. So I started banging my head against this wall for a while. Maybe I could platform up these roots to the Castaway. I know the Tremendous Sniffer could clip past a rock wall in Pikmin 3, can the Onion do so as well? But unfortunately, unlike Pikmin 3, all my efforts were fruitless. I mean, I managed to get the Sovereign Bull blocks across the wall, but that's only because it's so freaking big. And when Ochi spits out something he swallowed, the bigger it is, the harder they go. In comparison, onions practically don't move. So after silently accepting that these gates are going to take 6 more throws, Obnoxious Void appeared. And after finding out how to skip the wall in Olimar's Shipwreck tale, they proceeded to do this. How the frick they do that? After beating the final boss and rescuing Louie, we unlock his Fit for a Feast side quest, which tasks us with revisiting caves and getting Louie his lunch. So after completing his hit list and accidentally pulling out White Pikmin for the first time, we're rewarded with the Extra Hand upgrade, which allows our captain to carry stuff all on his own. This gets weird. If you let go of a spicy berry at the exact moment you grab it, you'll be put in a state where you're fully actionable, yet still carrying the berry. This essentially makes our portable platforms even more portable. So we can use 2 throws to partially break the barrier, grab ourselves a berry, and use it to jump over the wall, shaving 1 throw off our total. And in case you're wondering, Winged Pikmin will only carry the Rock Onion past the wall when it's completely broken. Anyways, while 1 throw save is nice and all, can we go any further? Well, we can go out of bounds. In the Blossoming Arcadia, grab this 10 pellet and take it near the map boundary by the Sunwash Plateau. Plop a spicy berry nearby, and we can jump onto the ledge. An invisible wall blocks us from exploring any further, but if we swallow the 10 pellet up here, we can work around this. Now, it's important to note that while Swallow makes Ochi completely envelop whatever he's carrying, attempting to swallow an object with other carriers causes him to grab on as normal. So by utilizing the Extra Hand, we can force Ochi to carry the pellet normally, allowing us to rotate the captain through the wall. And now that we're out of bounds, there's no floor here. Trying to walk to the Castaway just results in falling out of bounds. All this effort, and we didn't even save any throws. So ladies and gentlemen, I ask you once again to place your bets. If we don't want to A, spend a throw to break the wall, and B, planning out and discovering an elaborate out of bounds technique to reach wherever we desire isn't letting us reach wherever we desire, then does that mean option C, slam our face against the wall until it works, will work once again? Because yes, it does. Obnoxious Boy discovered that by swallowing and spitting the dead body of a burrowing snagger at the wall. It gets kinda wacky. Because just like the Sovereign Bullblacks, the Snavian is so big, Ochi launches it out of his mouth. This allows us to put the body in such a weird angle it steps back into an upright position, placing it inside the wall. From here, we can grab onto it with the captain and rush them through, granting us access to the final castaway of the game. And while there's no explicit carry path out, getting them to freedom from here isn't much of a hassle. As we've established, swallowing and spitting smaller objects isn't a very effective form of transportation. I've tried. But Ochi's issue is that he always spits in the direction he's facing. But if we instead call him, he turns to face us. This allows us to move the castaway pretty effectively, but do note if you call too early or before Ochi's actually moving, he will drop whatever he's holding without turning. So timing is key. But once it's close enough, we can drop down, rush off the ledge, and officially cut 2 more throws from that total. Now, this is awesome. Just like all of this. But we're still no closer to getting the rock onion. If we can clip our captain through all the walls we want, but unless we can clip the onion through, we're screwed. What's that? We can clip the onion through the wall? Continuing the rampage against the reinforced menace, Obnoxious Void stumbled across this video. Now, I want to bring up this channel real quick, because what you're about to see wouldn't have been possible without... I can't read Japanese. But both Google Translate and one of my friends says they're called Dark Monkey. So I'm just gonna plop their channel down in the description and implore you to check it out whenever, because they have so much miscellaneous nonsense where they break Pikmin 4. That out of bounds technique? Yeah, that was from them. So credit where credit is due. But when Void saw this video, they got cooking. The plan. Clip Ochi into the wall, then spit the onion across. Now the central bit is too small for anything meaningful, but these side pillars are large enough to actually hold our pup. So if we can clip Ochi into one of these, we can have him swallow the onion, call him to face the other side, and then spit it to freedom. Now, there's a lot of difficulties with this plan, but it might just be crazy enough to work. Put the captain on the outside of the wall, and platform Ochi into the ash pit with a single winged Pikmin. Carry the onion over, and do what you need to position it into this spot. Now we want Ochi to grab the onion normally, which is why we brought along a Pikmin. Because where he grabs is important, and he can only latch into carryable objects from a few specific points. Well, looking at this onion, how the frick do we know where those points are? This thing is 5-way symmetry. Thankfully, swallowing and spitting an object will always make it face the direction Ochi's facing, so a viable grab spot will always be right where he spat it out. So once we spit the onion parallel to the wall to get it in the right angle, we just need to dismiss the Pikmin properly. Whenever an object circles at a dead end, it doesn't circle around the center of the object, it instead circles around the average point of all the carriers. Because of this, we want to dismiss the wing Pikmin onto the opposite side of the onion. So if Ochi's grabbing right below these 2 petals, the Pikmin needs to grab below this singular petal. The dismissing process also requires a bit of effort too, since Pikmin will move quite a bit after dismissing, and the direction entirely depends on where they've grabbed onto Ochi. But if they don't grab the right spot, just call them back and try again. But once the Pikmin's latched on, pick up the onion and begin circling it towards the wall. Whenever you make some distance, drop it and pick it up again to reset the center point for the circling. Your goal is to set the onion down roughly in between the main part of the wall and the rightmost pillar. And once you're here, grab on and cross your fingers. If nothing really happens, the onion is too far to the left. If the onion turns sideways but stays there, you're too far to the right. Sometimes you'll be in the exact same pattern for a while, that's also a bust. Reposition, re-angle, and try again. But put it in just the right spot, let it circle a few times, and Ochi will clip into the wall. Why? Well, when the object rotates more than 90 degrees, as a failsafe, the game snaps it back upright, along with anyone currently carrying it. Ironically enough, this only winds up creating more issues. But once Ochi's in the wall, be very careful. I was only able to get this far once per day, so you really don't want to screw this next part up. Quickly drop the onion so Ochi doesn't walk back in bounds, then use the homesick signal to force the wing Pikmin to get out of your way. Now, we need to swallow the onion, switch captains, and call Ochi at the right time. Call him too early and he'll just spit the onion back out, but call him too late and he could walk back into the pit. So this all relies on my timing. Oops. Okay, but like wing Pikmin got this, right? I can grab it with thumb. They can pick it up. Okay, well, clearly that isn't working. What if I max out speed? Okay, I have fused the rock onion into the rock wall. It literally cannot move. Ochi cannot move either. I have fused him to the rock wall. You know what? Screw this. And with that, we have collected the rock onion, the last object we have remaining in 0 extra throws. Finally reaching our goal of all areas 100%. So here we are at long last. How many throws does it take to 100% Pikmin 4? The answer is 37. Or is it? While we've gone through the entire game and whittled our way down to this number, we learned a ton of tricks and techniques along the way. So before we definitively end things off, let's go over every throw we've had to take and see in more detail why they are so much of a problem. And if there's any last second throw saves we could chuck in. Of the 37 throws we have in the game, 5 are to grab the Path Creator, 6 are to open Olimar's Vault, 15 are to open Louie's Vault, 4 are needed in the Engulf Castle, 1 to grow a purple, 1 to push down the paper bag, and 2 to kill the Water Wraith, 2 are needed in Cavern for King to kill both Water Wraiths, 1 is to grab the Ionium Jet and Olimar's Shipwreck Tail, and 4 are to grow enough purples to weigh down the paper bag and the Trial of the Sage Leaf. And out of all of these, my personal least favorites are easily the Path Creator throws. This thing is so annoying because it shouldn't be as difficult as it is, but due to the immense restrictions placed on us by the tutorial, plus the fact we have to grab it right then and there to progress the game, we're kinda screwed. And while I was able to get Ochi stuck on the Game Boy and use his rush to get both the captain and him on the device, which let me pilot it around like a ship, Mario Sunshine style, without any proper way to gain height, the bell is solely accessible via throwing. And even if we found another way to get Pikmin up there, we can't dismiss them to grab it. The best avenue we have would be finding a way to get Ochi up the ledge, since that'd save 3 throws by default, and I bet we could get him stuck on the bell and rush it down. But for now, the absolute lack of options is the killing blow to these throws. But I'm still hopeful we'll find a way to get this thing down someday. Next up, we have the 2 vaults, which total 21 of our 37 throws, which is pretty substantial if you ask me. There doesn't seem to be much hope for either of these, since their dials are hard-coded to only be interactable via throwing. But interestingly enough, upon clearing Olimar's Dandori battle, he's thrown past the vault. This makes me wonder, if we find a way to clip inside and beat him, does Olimar still get thrown past? If he does, this could save 15 whole throws, as Louie's Vault could take the 1, 2, and 3 for its combination. Unfortunately, this is only possible if the Dandori battle is even active before the vault opens. It's entirely likely that we can find a way inside and nothing comes of it. Meanwhile, I highly doubt we'd ever be able to skip Louie's Vault. As said before, we'd need to find a way to clip inside, then find a way to clip the treasure out. But we did it once before, so who knows? Now, the Water Wraiths. I find it incredibly funny that this is the singular enemy that requires throws to kill. Out of every single creature in the game, of course it's the Water Wraith. But similar to the vaults, we're screwed in the context of a hard-coded answer. There's no roadblock to overcome, there's just a Water Wraith that needs killing, and the only way to make it vulnerable is specifically throwing purples. Although, there is another way to kill this thing. Ice! Freezing an enemy mid-air causes it to fall to the ground and instantly shatter, and while this can be a very funny way to get a cheesy quick kill, it somehow works on the Water Wraith? We can only freeze this thing with Ice Blast, and it only kills if it's airborne. But if we ram into a Water Wraith with Ochi while chucking an Ice Blast at it, we can force it into the air and instantly detonate the bomb, hurtling the Wraith to the ground and destroying the rollers. Unfortunately, there's another health wheel we need to deal with. Since the Ice Blast only detonates due to being damaged by the rulers, we can't just throw another one. Because of this, the typical setup for this technique lies in wait with a mine. So when you break the rulers, the Wraith falls backwards onto it, and if they get frozen by a second Ice Blast before the mine explodes, they'll plunge to the ground and instantly die. Which is a pretty nutty tech to witness in real time. Unfortunately, this full setup still takes 3 throws, while using purples only takes 2. And even if we find something to act in place of the mine, we're now matching purples' throw output. The only difference being we wouldn't need one. But while that's not an issue in Cavern for a King, this could be a worthwhile endeavor in the Engulfed Castle. And luckily enough, buried within the water race arena is the noble goo treasure. The paint equivalent of a purple Pikmin. Could this be the mine replacement we're looking for? Well, probably not. After hours of attempts, I never even got close to a throw save. On the off chance the Wraith landed on the treasure, it just pushed it out of the way. And if we make it immovable by leaving it partially buried, now they harmlessly slide off. It really makes me realize how perfect the mine is for this whole thing, because it's both completely immovable and can delete itself on a whim. Because of this, if the goo strategy has any hope of working, my bet would be on unburying it in the very brief window where the water wraith is resting on top of it while frozen. Executing this idea would require an absurd amount of luck, patience, and effort, and it might still not even work. But with that said, thanks to Drought Ender, we still have a throw save on this floor. Because remember the one throw we used to flatten the bag? Well, you know what number's lower than 1? That's right. A lot of them. Whenever we call Pikmin to jump onto Ochi, we call Pikmin to jump onto Ochi! From here, we can run at the paper bag and dismiss anyone who managed to land on top of it. And while it's easy to get a good chunk up there initially, the height of the jump largely depends on where they decide to grab Ochi, which is random. Combine that with the immense fear of accidentally calling Pikmin off the bag as the number you have remaining gets smaller and smaller, and I'm gonna make the executive decision to call this the single most annoying trick in the run. Not hard, but annoying. Ah, what fun. But keep up the good work, and eventually you can get all 100 Pikmin on top of the bag, crushing it down. Which is easier to do if you do grow a purple, but hey, it could still be possible without them. This brings our throw total down to 36. So if this works for the bag, can this work for the Ionium Jet? Unfortunately, due to being designed for yellow Pikmin, it's still out of reach. But you know what? Screw that! We have portable platforms! So I dragged a spicy berry all the way over here, found a way to carry it uphill, watched as it vanished into thin air multiple times. I could have sworn they stuck around forever. And ultimately brought it to the jet and still not accomplish anything I wanted. But after standing here for a bit, I had the stupidest idea in the world. Bull bear with me. Start by bringing a handful of spicy berries to the Sunwash Plateau, and place one next to the dolphin. Put away a Pikmin or two, and bring everyone onto the map boundary. Now, since we lack both Swallow and the extra hand, we can't clip through the invisible wall. But despite that, the Pikmin go right through it. Probably because it's supposed to act as a level border and not a progression blocker. But thanks to this oddity, we can charge them to the back, dismiss them, and now prepare for the funny part. Send Moss over to the Ionium Jet, and once she reaches the part, position her next to these things of grass on the ground. Then make her face slightly to the left of the part. This is incredibly important. Now, with Olimar, pull out your spare Pikmin, head up the path, then charge and dismiss the bulk of the army at the top of this route. Having these two Pikmin with you is important because without them, a majority of the squad won't listen to your charge or dismiss, which causes them to run back in bounds. And we want as many Pikmin up there as we possibly can. But once the bulk of your army is positioned correctly and Moss is in the right spot, call them over and use the lineup trumpet to send them to the left. Now, quickly switch to Moss and watch your efforts pay off. We're now at 35 throws. As you might have guessed by now, we're clipping the Pikmin out of bounds, but if you don't do it right, then they'll respawn one at a time and fall in a straight line. For a bulk of my testing for this was spent on finding a way to call the Pikmin over so they fall down in one big batch. This way, when they respawn, they'll clip inside of each other and go flying. And oddly enough, it doesn't seem random which direction they're being sent. I don't know why this happens this way, but it seems like the angle you face influences the angle they go, hence Moss's positioning. Whatever the case, this is frankly an absurd technique, and I have no clue what the frick possessed me into doing this. I'm pretty sure the only reason I even considered this as a possibility was because I had to learn the original outbounds for the video, then needed footage to demonstrate the respawning Pikmin, leading me to realize that these guys do not care about this invisible wall. And suddenly I'm back in the same level, spicy berry in hand, put 2 and 2 together, and Olimar's Shipwreck tale can now be officially completed without using a single throw. What the frick? The only ones remaining for the purple onion lie in the 10th Dandori story. But these 4 are also looking kinda finicky. Since our throws here are spent growing enough Pikmin to flatten the bag, the only way we can lower the number is by skipping the roadblock altogether. But like, we did just clip a different onion through a wall, so what's stopping us from doing it again? Well, the environment. I screwed around for a good while, but the closest I got to clipping Ochi out of bounds specifically happened due to the oddities involved in starting overtime. From there, after making some dead bodies freak out for a while, which could be another avenue I guess, I realized you could reach and swallow the onion while standing on the bag to bring it up with you. Unfortunately, an invisible wall blocks Ochi from passing the finish line. But we got over an invisible wall before, can we do it again? Well, too bad, this one's actually tall enough. The way I see it, the 2 best routes for cutting these throws include either clipping past the map border, or clipping into the paper bag. But if we do these, it's entirely likely that there's either no floor to stand on, or the invisible wall extends down. And in either of these cases, we'd need to find a new alternative. Although, out of every throw we have remaining, I do think these 4 will be the next to go. And even though these throws are still necessary, welcome to the end of the video. So to finally answer the question, how many throws does it take to 100% Pikmin 4? The answer is 35. This has been an absolutely incredible journey, and I want to thank everyone who's helped me along the way. First off, of course, Drought Ender and Obnoxious Void for just assisting with the challenge and generally being great. Secondly, I want to give a shout out to my friend Caden for patching up my arm. And lastly, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. This has been a freaking insane journey. But it's not over yet. Because while I spent 35 throws, there's still more to save out there. But for now, I'm going to bed.